Abatement Advisory Commission to order. And at this time, I'll call the roll. State Treasurer Allison Ball.
Here.
Representative Danny Bentley.
Here.
Director Vic Brown.
Here.
Ms. Karen Butcher.
Here.
Mr. Carlos Cameron.
Here.
Dr. Alan Brenzel here for Secretary Friedlander.
Present.
Director Van Ingram.
Here.
Ms. Von Purdy. Dr. Jason Roop. Here. Dr. Sharon Walsh.
Here.
All right. I expect that today will be rather brief, just from an overall organizational perspective. There's not a whole lot of heavy lifting we've got to do on the business end. This is about touching base, setting the table for heading into the new year, and making sure that we have the availability for public comments for those who are in the room with us today. Our business schedule heading into 2023 is as follows. All meetings will be at 1024 Capitol Center Drive, Suite 200, which is where we are at now. January 10, 2023, February 14, 2023, March 14, 2023, April 11th, May 9th, and June 13, all of which, of course, are 2023 at 1 p.m. If everybody would, please take a moment to review your minutes to make sure that they square up with your recollections of what we covered in the last meeting. Is there any discussion of the contents of the minutes? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are unanimously approved. I will keep my update very short and brief. As everyone knows, we have a very important town hall tomorrow evening in Louisville, Thursday evening in Louisville at Brandeis Elementary School. Again, I'll clarify. Thursday evening, December 15, 6 p.m. at Brandeis Elementary School in the West End. This commission was very quick to approve the setting of this follow-up town hall in Louisville. Thank you, Ms. Purdy, for the work that you did to help us identify the partners that we needed to meet to hit the target audience that we intend to hit, and that is our African-American brothers and sisters who are on the West End and statewide, who at this point in time are experiencing a higher death rate related to opioid overdose death than has been historically the case. For the first time, they are the most affected population as compared to whites, and we want to make sure that we get the message out that we have and advise those who are in community to avail themselves of the opportunity to interface with this commission as they start to work to get control of circumstances within their community. I have been approached by a newly elected city council member in Lexington, Kentucky, whose name is Denise Gray. Denise Gray represents Council District 6 in Lexington, which covers the north and northeast portion of the city. She has asked if we will come to Lexington on January the 17th and essentially have a town hall in partnership with Consolidated Baptist Church, which they will host. I believe that there will likely be over the coming weeks coalescence of a group of African-American faith leaders in Lexington who advertised this event for its importance to the community. And I wanted to bring this to everybody's attention. It'll be a subject of new business here shortly, just in terms of formally adopting the time, location, and date. Next thing is related to the application process and the way in which our subcommittee structure exists. Right now, we have one subcommittee that is comprised of 4 individuals and 2 subcommittees comprised of 3. If we have any absence related to the other 2, that puts us kind of in a clink. So once we start the process of application review, we are going to combine the prevention and reform subcommittees so that those 2 groups can work together to sort, review, and begin the process of approving applications. So once we dismiss into the subcommittees, it will be important for those 2 groups to coordinate together what their meeting dates are going to be heading into the new year for purposes of application review. Any questions about anything that I have covered so far? All right. Well, rather than wait till new business, I see on my notes agenda that you have prepared, Ms. Chavis, that we are now at a point where we can entertain a motion to approve holding the Lexington Town Hall on January the 17th at 6 p.m. in partnership with Consolidated Baptist Church, which they will in turn do the hosting duties for us. Is there a motion?
I move that we do that.
I'll
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that is formally set. We will look forward to going back to Lexington on January the 17th. As for old business, we decided that we would go ahead and move forward with the development of a statewide commission conference that is tentatively proposed to occur in September of 2023. Our first order of business is going to be the retention of event planner for this, and speak with our partners in Indiana, as well as some other folks within the state that organize these sorts of conferences. Getting an event planner is integral to making sure that you've got the sort of organizational bandwidth you need to pull it all together and make it happen. As soon as we have identified the candidate for that, the commission will be duly advised. There is no new business to cover, which places us right into the public comments and remarks section of our agenda. At this time, I would like to recognize those who have signed up. First, we have with us General Barry Price. I hope I said that name correctly. PhD and Major General, retired with the U.S. Army. And before we get into public comments, pardon me, General, I just say this as a prefatory remark for everyone. If there is anybody here who wishes to speak, who happens to have a grant application that they're going to submit or that has been submitted, please make sure that you refrain from a discussion of the application, its contents, or any specific monetary request. Insofar as you wish to discuss the general concept of why you're here and what it is that you wish to do, we're happy to hear that. But in terms of application-specific advocacy, we ask that you refrain from that in the public comments section. General Price, sorry for that interruption.
Thank you, sir. You might have asked me to refrain from the coffee because that is pretty strong Kentucky coffee. Thank you for allowing me to speak with you for these next 5 minutes. General Barry Price. I'm the president and CEO of the Community Anti-Drug Coalitions of America, based in Washington, D.C. We've changed, we're going through a brand refresh, and our name CACA will now mean Community-Based, Advocacy-Focused, Data-Driven Coalition Building Association, and that we're global and we're not just of America anymore. We empower and we equip communities through education and training to solve their own problems. We build multi-sector, evidence-based coalitions. Those sectors are composed of kid-serving organizations, parents, schools, clergy, law enforcement, politicians, business, civic organizations, substance abuse organizations, and public health officials, 12 sectors in total. And we take them through a year-long education and training on our model on the art and science of prevention so that they can solve their own problems. That's our major focus. We've built more than 124 community-based coalitions here in the state of Kentucky. One of them is received international renown, Carter County, which is in Ashland, Kentucky, a coalition that we built there that moved their graduation rates from 81% to 98.9%. That moved their the college readiness scores from 23% in 2010 to 76.5% in 2016. We have the evidence on all of these coalitions, and I would tell you, you have these coalitions that blankets the state of Kentucky right now. 124 of them that are at the ready to be a seminal part of Kentucky solution. That's all I have.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. We have Dr. Andy Harmon here.
Thank you for allowing me to speak for you guys a little bit. I'm really here to try to I think you have in front of you a list of things that I think are important where the monies can be spent that will be received in regards to addiction and the drug opioid that we have a problem with. I spent 8 years after I closed my practice doing assistant coroner work, and I saw the consequences of addiction. I spent next fall 8 years working in the emergency room, seeing the downside of addiction. And I've spent the last 8 years seeing the upside of addiction by treating with MAT. That means medical assisted treatment. We use primarily Suboxone. I know some of you are quite aware of it. Some people are not. But there's a big difference between addiction and dependency. Addiction means that medicine or a drug that you are taking, you find more of it. And when you are taking it, you start seeking it out, and it basically controls your life. Dependency means that you can have a withdrawal from it, but it doesn't control your life. Especially Suboxone, because when we start treatment, we can actually decrease the amount and get the same effect, which is contrary to what we would consider to be a true addiction. Now, I've listed out in the first 3 are, I think, self-explanatory, because mainly it's if we can educate the public, then we can get more people into treatment. There's really a stigma with it. I mean, it's across the board. I've had run-ins with even pharmacies where I've had to call them and talk to them about treating our patients. They're glad to fill a prescription for Schedule 3 drug, unless it's Suboxone. And then they look down on the person that's doing that. So I've actually had to call them and talk to them about that. But educating the public, providing access to naloxone, where until we can get the border closed and get fentanyl decreased off the streets, there's not one day that I don't have someone come into my office that they're not personally touched with an overdose death. I mean, it's horrible. So we need to get more out there on the streets. I carry it in my car, and I recommend everybody carry it up. You have no clue when you're going to run across somebody that's falling over with an addiction that they've overdosed. And it's usually fentanyl. And don't carry 1 or 2, carry 4 or 5 in your car, because it takes a lot more for fentanyl overdose. Transportation is a real problem when we have patients coming in. They can't get there. Thank goodness we are doing more telehealth, but it's really a problem, and we need more assistance with that. One of the big ones that I'm really concerned about is that we need to educate our law enforcement, judges, anybody that's dealing with jails and prisons and people that have to go there, because they are not getting their treatment in the jails. And the American Society of Addiction Medicine, if you start, and you can look it up yourself, the National Practice Guidelines recommends treatment in jails, in prisons, and to continue that in the community after they are released. And we are not getting that education. I have talked actually to a judge that did a drug court, but his philosophy was, well, we see Suboxone and everything. Yes, it's there because people are trying to keep from being sick. They get addicted because they want to feel good. Then it gets caught, they're in that circle, then they don't want to feel bad. So then they take naloxone. It does not make them high, it doesn't get them addicted, but it gives them a release from their drug habits. So I would encourage you all to look over the list that I have. I'm just presenting it as a way to help provide for our state, our communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank
sir.
you.
But where's your practice? I am practicing in Lexington at a company called Spiro Health. And they have almost 90 different clinics spread around Kentucky, Indiana, all the surrounding states. And so they're doing it right.
I do have a question. So I prosecuted for about 4 years. During that period of time, every judge that I worked with, unless you were on what they would call step down program, the process of elimination, they were not comfortable with it at all. So the prosecutors weren't comfortable. That's the perception that I experienced in the legal community, at least the time that I was practicing in that one area. Is that what your, well, what was your response to that?
That's what we're seeing, is that it's not just the public needs to be educated, judges need to be educated, attorneys need to be educated, because they're looking. I've had more than one patient taken to the jail because they got up in the morning, they took half their dose, and then they had the other half dose with them. They got stopped for a traffic violation. They found that in their pocket or on their, in the middle of their car, and they took them to jail. And it's, I mean, it's a constant problem that we're dealing with, so we need more education especially. And so however that can be done through this commission, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. We have a Dr. Milby at Hometown Pharmacy.
My name is Melita. I'm a pharmacist in Campbellsville, Kentucky, and I own a community pharmacy. And I just wanted to share, if we think about just as a commission today, it's an honor to be here. You know, I think when we think about the opioid epidemic and the pandemic that we've created, which you all are were discussing, you know, community pharmacists are your community leaders. You know, kind of speaking to the note that you just mentioned, there's so much education that needs to be done, even with our medical practitioners, our community pharmacists. So I represent a pharmacy that I own. Much like many rural counties in our state, we face a lot of these things that are happening. You know, pharmacists have that touch point. We think about how, you know, Purdue Pharmaceutical, all those drugs that were dispensed at the pharmacy counter. I believe there's a redemptive effort that can be taken back by the high touch point interactions that pharmacists have with patients across our community. You know, I think about growing up in small rural areas, those community pharmacists, those are your leaders and those pillars. They know your medical providers in the community. And I think that there's much education and the infrastructure that needs to be supported by the rehab facilities can be done through our community pharmacists. When we think about prevention, treatment, MAT, and then sustainability, we can't just focus on the acute phase of addiction while someone's in recovery, but also look at those root causes and those chronic disease states and helping those patients manage not only clinically, but also those social barriers. My pharmacy launched in 2019. In the last year, we've broken the glass ceiling and what we're accomplishing through a piloted research study. We feel the need for this type of funding and support from this body, like many rural counties across the state. Taylor County is a HRSA underserved primary care area, like many counties. We have mental health shortages. Many patients that deal with addiction deal with concomitant behavioral issues as well, HIV, hepatitis. Kentuckians don't have access to those medications, and the providers in those rural areas of the state don't have the support that they need to manage those conditions. So it's important that we focus on research-based clinical endpoints that looks at integrating that comprehensive model, not just clinically, but looks at those social determinant barriers that exist within the fabric of those regions of the state. So we launched a 501c3 nonprofit this last year to address those social determinant barriers. I believe in the rural outpatient setting, we have to look at integration. We have to look at comprehensive care. That encompasses not just clinical pharmacists, providers, healthcare providers, you know, entities like this that you represent, but it also takes those leaders that are already established in those specific areas that know their community better than anyone. With our nonprofit this year, we've renovated our homeless shelter. We're looking at those social determinant barriers. When someone leaves acute rehab, their transportation, establishing care, that continuity is lost right now. There's so many Kentuckians that need help managing their addiction, but they also need help as a person and as an individual. And so my prayer for this commission is to really take that to heart, to really look at not only those social barriers and how we can address those comprehensively, but also those clinical research endpoints and giving tools to pharmacists at communities, education. And really what we're able to pilot is that integration to support not only the practitioner and the medical side, the rehabs that need the infrastructure and the support that we're talking about, access to specialty medications to not only treat addiction behavior, but those concomitant conditions such as hepatitis, HIV, behavioral health, and underlying root cause. We've got to address all those things, and the research that we're piloting is really focused on that and really supporting not only the medical, but also those patients and those families that are ravaged by addiction. So I believe that you all have an unbelievable task in front of you all. but I know that this is God ordained work that you all are doing. You all have been selected for a specific reason. And I could just get emotional about it because it's such an honor that you all have this opportunity to really break those addiction cycles for communities like mine across the state. Thank you.
Do you have anybody here who may not have signed up to speak, who nonetheless wishes to do so? If we don't have any speakers at this point in time, I will entertain a motion to adjourn into our subcommittees. And keep in mind that once subcommittees are done with their discussions, once you return to the room, we will need a motion to return back to the regular business. So at this time, is there a motion to break out into subcommittees?
Yes, sir.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
All right. terms of the agenda, at this point in time, we are ready for update and announcements. I will reserve minutes last, and I'll look to you, Mr. Ingram, to kick us off.
Well, I'll refer to Dr. Walsh to talk about our meeting in there. Looking forward to going to Louisville this week. Looking forward to adding that date Lexington. I think those are good suggestions and good ideas. We need to reach as many people as we can. So I'll stop there.
Yes, I do not believe I have any updates for the greater good of the committee, so thank you.
Just want to share that in our subcommittee meeting that we're talking a lot about the good that coalitions can do and the good that the stories of redemption do in this state to open people's awareness that people actually do recover from addiction. And so that was encouraging. And thank you, Ms. Karen, for kind of initiating that conversation. That's all.
Yeah, I don't think I have a lot to add to that. We had a very lively discussion, as I think has happened every time that we've gotten together, and it was very informative. And we talked about a couple of federal bills that are also being considered right now that would change the landscape of addiction treatment. And we also talked a little bit about the process for the reviews. And I guess that we will all be collectively talking some more about how that will operate. No.
Thank you. Representative.
You know, if you got a drive-through window in your business and everybody comes by and they get rained on and they tell you, you better be putting something over their heads when they come through, you're gonna lose business. That's about the way it is going in all these cities. We've heard all these people complaining about raining. So we know it's transportation, education, prevention, harm reduction. So now our committee has a hard, difficult job of looking at regulations and statute. So that's where we are.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Purdy.
I really don't have anything to add. We are very in prevention. We talked a bit about how there's so many other circumstances that impact prevention, and we need to remember that all of the various factors impact the areas in which we need to take into consideration. So again, the groups that present to us, we talk to them about making sure their proposals indicate their needs, and that we as a group will take all of those into consideration. And we also talked about how combining our groups and the dates, two different prevention and your team.
It's
We work in those
Yes.
dates out and combine our reviews. We have worked there.
I have nothing further.
I have a lot to say, but I said a lot of it in our committee meeting. But I learned a lot and I have a new appreciation for coalitions, but I also talked to someone who was in that meeting who said if I had shared that I lost a son to overdose in 2020, I would have had a lot more credibility. And what that said to me was we always, not always, but we tend to trust people who've had a similar experience to us. So I wanted to redeem myself for those people who did not know that. So thank you. I learned a lot and we did get our date scheduled. We're excited.
Thank you, Mr. Cameron. I'm very appreciative of Ms. Purdy and her leadership on our prevention committee, but the group itself, we've listened to a lot of people come in and talk, and you see that there's a collective effort taking place, which is what we've been trying to accomplish with this abatement committee, to really attack this epidemic head on. There's multiple ways to fight it. I'm a big prevention guy. I've always been that way. I believe preventing before it ever happens, but we still got other ways to prevent deaths, prevent, you name it. And very excited to be a non-voting part of this and represent Senate President Stivers. Thank you, sir. Treasurer.
So we discussed statutory and regulatory reform today for a while in the subcommittee, and that's its purpose. But one thing I would like to mention to everybody who's in here we have our ideas, people come in to talk to us, present ideas, but this is definitely one of those topics where you may know something that we don't know. So if there's something that you've encountered, you've experienced, you get blocked by something in statute that's causing a problem, you can see something needs to be changed. I would just encourage everybody, if there's something you know, please tell us, because this is the opportunity to do something about it.
Thank you. This is our last meeting of the calendar year. We had our first one on July 15th. I don't know about everybody else in this room, but oftentimes compressed events can elongate the sense of time. And over the course of these past 5 months now, it feels like we've lived about 2 or 3 years in terms of what we have seen and listened to from one end of the state to the other, the amount of work that has been done in a very unified and collaborative fashion by this group. And those of you who I have the honor of serving with have been put here for a very specific purpose, and that is abundantly clear based on how tremendously well the group has gelled and worked in such a fabulous and complementary way front to back. And that's important because we have a tremendous challenge in front of us in terms of bridging the gap that's going to exist between the profound expectations that we know that are out there in the state and what we have by way of very finite one-shot resources that are going to be delivered to try to meet those expectations. We currently have 215 applications in process and 17 have been completed and submitted. I anticipate that those numbers will grow as we head into the new year and look to begin our own award process that will hopefully culminate in some announcements toward the middle to end of spring. I hope that we can set a target collectively to have around, and these are very loose timeframes for those who are watching online. These are not hard and fast. Don't hold us to hard and fast times. But aspirationally speaking, if we can make a round of award announcements in April, July, October, and then a final round in December of next year, that is an ideal time and outcome. Our first order of business is to know exactly to the penny how much we're going to have to work with by way of resources once money starts coming in the door and we have a firm handle on schedule. And then the internal process that we develop to go about granting awards in a way to make sure that we have Pikeville to Paducah coverage and all of the important priority areas that have been identified. And that's going to be the hard, difficult work we do over the next 90 days. The last thing that I would say is that I am tremendously thankful for each of you individually, the way in which you have spoke to me person to person, educated me, and hopefully will continue to do so as we move forward together. And I will do my best to serve you and this commission to the best of my ability to get our folks in this state what they need, which at this point in time, more than anything else, is hoping that we can change the next 25 years. I wish you all a very happy holiday and thank you very much for all that you have given the folks in this state and me personally. Please remember, I need to visit with you individually, each for about 2 to 3 minutes at the conclusion of the meeting. We'll be over here in this room. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Marty.
Oh, need a motion to adjourn. Getting carried away. Second, all in favor.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.